Hi, this is Joyce Van Setters. Because of my healthcare background, the Pink Book was created to battle mental health. In the fitness industry and healthcare industry, the Pink Book is the epidemiology of infectious disease, and with these stories, we want to inoculate your mental health. If there's something that resonates with you, I hope you join. Welcome to the Pink Book Podcast. I am your host, Joyce Van Setters. You might recognize me from the Forever Free Space podcast. Because of my healthcare background, I am also a mental health advocate. And as much as I believe that fitness can battle that, I also believe that using your creative outlet can battle that. Today we are talking to Hezues R, a film director and media entrepreneur. He's worked with some of the biggest icons in the industry. He's the creative behind, I want to pronounce this right, Boadicea the Victorious, which is one of the biggest fragrances in the world. It was actually the fragrance used at the royal wedding. Also used by, Biggie, Kate Moss, Madonna, Michelle Obama.
Sure.
He's also the creative behind Diddy's Ciroc brand and De Leon Tequila. He's also worked with Mona Young Scott, Russell Simmons, just to name a few. And he's still sought out today by icons in their respected industry, not just because of his savvy marketing, because he understands what the consumer wants. Hezues R, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Great. Before I start, I have a quote from you that I saw online that I want to get into. It said, "Directing is my heroin. Shooting makes the pain go away." Can you talk to me about that?
Sure. I think for most artists who are on the bleeding edge of, we'll say, what society feels, right? You have some of the greatest artists, whether they're comedians or poets, who have lived the experience so much in an unsafe way, right? In a sometimes in a rebellious way, or in a very, they go to the limits of society, and they also embrace what it is to hurt, and then try to express that for other people in a way, maybe alleviate it through comedy or poetry. But we've had some of our biggest artists, even in fashion as well, who have committed suicide because they lived the human experience to such an extreme, right? For the benefit of all of us to then appreciate their art. At the same time, it's also therapeutic, right? For what you're creating. So for me, being on set and being in the moment of my talent is, and just living that passion is the greatest release. So for me, that's it. That's my drug, right?
Yeah.
That's a bigger drug. So, and it's just the play on words, right?
Right. Of course.
It's
I
shooting.
love that.
I'm not shooting up, but I'm shooting.
Right.
So, but that's my heroin, right? That's my fix. That's
I like
my release.
That. Where are you from, Hezues?
So my family's from South America.
Okay.
A small country called Uruguay.
Okay.
Uruguay.
I actually know Uruguay.
Yeah, and very, very known for soccer.
Yep.
We almost had the recent Copa America. We came in third, but
I actually know Uruguay because I had a friend who was a soccer player over in Uruguay, and we actually went over there to rescue dogs, and I had a miniature Dachshund named Jorge, and he was from Uruguay. No one ever believed me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know Paraguay or Uruguay, and I'm very familiar with both of those countries. When you came over from Uruguay, you were here in New York or New Jersey?
In New York.
Okay.
What
part?
And all over New York.
Okay.
I mean, I lived a lot of my life upstate New York in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Okay.
My mother came here when she was 17, and then when we were young, we went back and forth a lot.
Okay. Do you both parents growing up, or just your mother?
Mostly my mother.
Okay.
Knew my father. My parents weren't together.
Okay.
And today I have an amazing relationship with my father. And it's not that he wasn't around when we were younger. I think I have a great mix of both of my parents.
Okay.
My mother being a little bit of a hustler, knowing how to just make ends meet from very little, and then my father being very humble as a carpenter. I have a good balance of, trying to go after it and get it, but then
Yeah.
also having some calmness, right, to that. It's a dynamic
Yeah.
mix of that energy.
What was your childhood like?
Um, I enjoyed my childhood. I mean, there was things that I experienced or went through that um, some might consider difficult or being, um, you know, having less, from being, from poverty. But the world is what you make it,
Yeah.
and I think coming from humble beginnings, I have a much greater appreciation even at a position of having less.
Yeah.
And today I can make it all, and if I lose it all, it's okay. I'll start back over again.
Right.
Um,
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have an
You
older
do.
brother,
Okay.
younger sister.
Okay. And did you go to school in Yonkers?
No, I didn't go to school in Yonkers.
Okay.
I went to high school in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, Poughkeepsie. Okay.
Yeah, and then I had my first business in Harlem, and I opened had business in Harlem
Hmm.
in Brooklyn, and had a studio in Red Hook, Brooklyn. I opened the first film studio in Yonkers. I'm
Right
sorry,
after
in the Bronx, in the South Bronx. So,
right after high school.
few years after high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you opened it up in the Bronx, you said?
Yep. I opened the first film studio in the Bronx. It was
What?
called Shoot HR.
Oh, okay.
It's like
Shoot.
Shoot HR because
Yeah,
I'm in
Hezues
shop, but
R.
it was like Shoot
Yeah.
at HR Studio.
Another play on words.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me about how you got into film.
So my first project was a program. I don't know, it was can't write, called Eye on
Eye
It,
on it. Uh-huh.
and the It stood for inspirational television.
Okay.
So Eye on It, to watch something that's inspiring. So
Right.
throughout my career, there's always been this focus on social impact
Okay.
through content. It's just kind of evolved as I learned the market, the impact, and always have an understanding of the power and importance of the psychology
Mm-hmm.
of what we consume and how it defines us, but it just kind of refining it and distilling it into this brand today, SIC.
Okay. And that was right out of high school or in high school?
Um, Ion, it was 2001,
Okay.
high school. I didn't graduate. I think it was 97, 98. I don't know.
Okay. And how did you come up with the reparations to get the studio or to start the studio?
So the studio in the Bronx was came a few years later. I did eye on it for a while. I was in. I did a lot of marketing. I had my first office in Harlem,
Okay.
131st in Park, and then I had an office downtown and 26th Street,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had the studio in Red Hook. Before that started to become gentrified, and then they brought in Whole Foods, and then
Yeah.
IKEA, and then
Of course.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm always in the neighborhoods before they change.
Before they change.
Same thing in the Bronx. I attracted more than 20 other businesses to that
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood. I had the city rip up the street, install high speed fiber optics, which
Oh,
just
wow.
transformed the whole neighborhood. And now it's when I left, Silver Cup came in and built a $40 million studio right across the street. So
Wow.
in my latest venture, when I was going into Yonkers, I initially wasn't going to plant my feet there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few mayors from a couple different cities courting me to open up our campus,
Okay.
and the owners of the studios in Yonkers, which now is the home of Lionsgate Media Pro, and it's
Wow.
grown to a
And that's the film studio today.
yes, and it's grown to a 22 stage development, 3 million square feet of production space. We're the first film school in the world inside of a major studio.
Wow.
But the opportunity there was a number of things that made it more of a fit for our business model,
Mm-hmm.
because we're a mix of commercial art and community impact.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to go in and take over the city armory, we
Oh,
signed
wow.
a 50-year lease to develop our campus at the armory, was more intriguing for me than just being inside of the studio,
Right.
because the armory currently houses the PAL program,
Okay.
and it has the youth division on the second floor.
Okay. That's the Police
Pol-
Athletic League?
Yeah, police athletic
Yeah.
league, and then the youth division for any crimes for youthful offenders, right?
Okay.
So they literally have a small cell, a couple cells up there that they'll lock
Wow.
them up before. And I was like, well,
Really?
this is our point of access,
Interesting.
right? Like if a kid is getting picked up on the weekend with a gun charge,
Yeah.
like these are the kids that we want to serve directly, right? So
Right.
it's a lot of times big developments are isolated from the community, and I always look for a point of access to create a bridge directly
Okay.
to the community to bigger resources.
Wow. Now you do a lot for your community. I read that there's even a Jesus R Day in Yonkers.
Yeah, well, one mayor, which mayor was that? I forgot the mayor's
Of
name, but
Yonkers.
it was no. Well, actually, I think we do have. Yeah, I got a proclamation from the
Yeah.
mayor. The mayor of Yonkers, Mike Spano, is really supportive of what he's given us. I think me a day. He's given us a sick tank day. We have a proclamation for our ambulance that
Wow.
we've converted to a mobile production studio.
Okay.
It's called the Sick Tank. World's first
That's
vehicle
pretty sick.
converted. Yeah, well, a lot of people ask me, why would you use an ambulance?
Yeah.
And when does an ambulance pull up?
Right.
When you're sick.
There you go.
So
You're good with the play on words, huh?
yeah, and then everything we're doing is to heal people,
Right.
right? We're using media, arts, and technology to
Exactly.
heal humanity. And then it wasn't as much as a gimmick as it was like the practical use of it was insane. Because
Okay.
when I first started thinking about an ambulance, and we have this big, international is the model. We don't do like the smaller Fords
Okay.
that like hospitals or local EMS companies use.
Mhm.
We use a bigger base that fire departments would use.
Okay. And is
Uh,
that because you wanted to convert it?
because I wanted to convert it, but it had much more function. Because if a grip or electric company wants to convert a Sprinter,
Yeah.
there's like minimal headroom and you load everything in and that's it.
Okay.
But with the box style of the ambulance, you
Mhm.
have this big interior compartment where we're able to put in edit suite, video village, and then all the exterior compartments where we can put grip, electric,
Wow.
C-stands, cameras. I mean, and then the power system in that
Mhm.
that's built for life or death emergencies, like
That's great.
more than enough to power up cameras, monitors, live broadcast gear. So
Wow. So do you use it for that as well?
yeah,
You do.
yeah, and it's part of a lot of what we do with SIC is about creating a sustainable model for the
Okay.
nonprofit.
Mhm.
Most nonprofits are competing for the same dollars,
Okay.
and it's difficult to get funding. I've invested millions of dollars of my own money into this as a business,
Okay.
but there's a sustainability aspect. I can use the sick tank to pull up to a school
Mhm.
or a under-resourced community that doesn't have the production services,
Right.
and use it as a mobile classroom and provide it for free.
Wow.
But I'm also able to rent it to the television and film industry for $20,000 a day. So
That's
rent it a few
nice.
days a month.
Right. You're good.
Yeah, and then I don't have to go. A lot of these other organizations that are popping up with
Right.
mobile trauma units. They got to get grants for it. They got to pay
Yeah.
drivers. It's all these expenses,
Yeah.
and we're able to do it kind of in house, right?
That's
There's
great.
no dependency.
Yeah. Now you do a lot for your community in reference to getting guns off the street, helping troubled youth. Talk to me a little bit about where that comes from.
Sure. I mean, it's from being shot. Thanks for plugging that. This is one of our programs. It's called Glocs for
Lots for
Ocs.
Ocs. Okay.
It's the first gun exchange STEM program in the country. Kids
Okay.
trade in their guns. They get an Oculus VR headset.
Oh, I like that.
And it's an update. It's a 3.0 version of a program I did in 2005 called Guns for Cameras.
Okay.
Guns for Cameras was taking guns off the streets,
Mhm.
giving kids video cameras. And our motto then was, you point, you aim, and you shoot,
Right.
but with something that creates
Creative.
life and opportunity as
That doesn't
opposed
take
to
it. Right.
destroying life. And I was honored by Barack Obama as a champion of change in 2014 for my work in gun violence prevention. But the interesting thing about what we're doing now, and another example of how I learned
Mhm.
how to be more impactful with change, when I was doing Guns for Cameras in 2005,
Mhm.
I would take a gun out of a kid's hand, give him a camera, and literally transform his life and stop violence within that community or neighborhood.
Yeah.
But if that person got out of the street and say they didn't go into film or got into music, they would then create a song bragging about a lifestyle that would then reach millions of people
Right.
who would then be infatuated with the same thing that I was trying to stop.
Got you.
So we've kind of elevated our impact on our strategy from
Mm-hmm.
just saving an individual and changing the weapon and
Yeah.
saving a life to now changing the narrative and saving society.
Right.
So it's not as important about the person that we're taking out of the street
Mm-hmm.
and helping and giving opportunity as that we're nurturing their voice to contribute something positive to
Wow.
society, right? So it's more about the collective consciousness
Yeah.
of everything that we're scrolling through these devices,
Yeah.
and whatever we consume on this phone is as our daily intake,
Yeah.
and it shifts our social norms. Like we're all constantly being reprogrammed on a daily basis on
Right.
like how far we can push the envelope or what's trending or what and
Yeah.
unfortunately it's more of the negative things go viral, get more traction. So now we can't just blame the studios and the television and film industry and say, hey, your algorithms are only catered towards profit and you don't care about the impact of
Right.
society. Young individuals, as their own content creators and many studios with millions of followers, are chasing their algorithms and
Right.
their likes and and it's like what we're recontributing is destroying all of us.
Yeah.
And we have the power.
We have the power. Yeah.
So I truly respect people like yourself who are using your platform to heal, to address fitness and health and mental health, because
Thank you.
we don't have enough of this in the world.
Yeah.
And it shows like yours is what's going to save society.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Now, this stemmed from you being shot yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. When I was 22 years old, I was shot at 22 times. I got hit by
When you were 22, you were
22. I was hit by 3 different guns, a 9, a 45, a 22. I still have a 22 slug in my stomach. It was 2:22 in the morning, so this kind of became
Wow.
a theme for me. If it was more random, or if the numbers didn't line up in such a way, maybe I wouldn't have been awoken
Yeah.
to my purpose.
Yeah.
And this was, when you asked earlier, how was your childhood? And it's like, oh, well, it seemed great, but that there was certain things that I didn't know weren't regular or
Right.
indicative of what should be a normal
Right.
childhood, right? So it's like getting shot at. If you grew up in that
Yeah, that's what's
environment
happening.
and you became, conditioned, programmed, or desensitized to that, that was just the environment, right? Like I've been in shootouts before that, and not trying to normalize it,
Right.
but like,
No, I feel you. Yeah.
everybody in Poughkeepsie thought they were a super thug, right?
Right.
Being from upstate and not
Right.
one of the 5 boroughs and having something to prove. But, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Beacon, like back in the 80s and 90s had some of the highest death rates in the country.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, what you were saying, not to normalize it, but you didn't know you had a bad childhood. I remember seeing interviews of people saying when they were in the Great Depression, and it was like, poor black people, they were saying, we didn't know there was a depression because we were always depressed. So we were that was normal.
Yeah.
There was no Great Depression for them.
And I think, no matter what you're dealt with in life, the best approach you could have to it is just figuring out how to be grateful.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got it worse. I mean, you can complain about being broke or this or that, and then there's people who are double amputees, missing a lung, don't got eyesight. Like, I mean, there's so many types of things that, I taught directing, and this is a random thing that just popped in my head, right? But I taught directing at Maine Media College. Maybe I shouldn't get too specific with details, but there was a group of people that I trained from the Air Force, media training.
Okay.
Right. And one person was a bright young girl from, well, I shouldn't even say state or whatever, but like,
Okay.
you might look at her first glance and be like, okay, she's a young white girl. She probably has whatever privilege or comforts of life, and maybe she just went in the military. And then like a year later, I saw a picture of her on social media. She had went on some assignment or trip where she was documented and went in a helicopter and like it was something happened, it's an explosion, she lost a leg, but
Oh
like
my
now
God.
she's living life without a leg, and
Yeah.
it's like, man, that's tough. Like here you are serving
Country, right.
your country, and whatever battlefield you went into, whatever went wrong, or like, you know, one day it seemed like you could have it all, and then the
Yeah.
next, but you know, just seeing still the
The
gratitude
turnaround.
and the vibrancy
Mm-hmm.
for life of like, you know, you got to appreciate what you got when you
Yeah.
have it.
That's deep. So was that your push forward to try to get guns off the street?
So, circling back to me being shot,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I think people, um, and I'm glad I went through a lot,
Mm.
because I couldn't say definitively if I didn't go through, you know, everything that I've gone through in life, that I would be as passionate about these different things,
Right.
right? Losing family members to suicide, losing friends to overdose,
Mm-hmm.
you know, multiple friends to fentanyl, and not
Wow.
just like gang members in Newark, but
Yeah.
also billionaires in London, like
Mm-hmm.
from completely different walks of life and
Yeah.
backgrounds. Like it, you know, mental health is something that affects people from poverty and privilege
Of
equally,
course.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah. It doesn't have a gender or a face.
yeah, pain is relative
Yeah.
to, you might think a kid who his daddy takes his Beamer away from him and he's has a lot of angst about it
Right.
is, you know, you might minimize it, but to that if that's his level of comfort, that pain is very real to him
Yeah.
versus somebody in the street who never had nothing, and you know their baby sister gets murdered, and it's like
Yeah.
we we have to have a a greater compassion for each other in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not to say that we should uh, baby someone in any way less,
Yeah. Of
you know, if we're
course.
comparing a person's pain or trauma, right?
Right.
Like there shouldn't be a comparison from those two extremes. But if that individual is impacted and their mental health isn't addressed, then they might turn into the next school shooter, right? And then a lot
Absolutely.
more lives are
Are
lost.
taken. Yep.
So we can't we can't take for granted how we treat anybody's pain.
Yeah. I have a healthcare background as well, so I'm a big advocate for mental health awareness. Um, I love using fitness to battle it. I think when you use fitness to battle it, there's this hard focus on whatever you're trying to build on your body, and that's all you can focus on, and it calluses you um, to other things. But I also love the creative outlet, and as I've been speaking to a lot of young entrepreneurs, which is why I wanted to start this. They're looking to, how can they use their creative outlet to battle mental health? What would be some advice that you would give?
Sure. Well,
You've done that.
yeah. Thanks for, you know, focusing on fitness. You know, you get that runner's high. That, I mean, there's so many things about fitness, about sports,
Yeah.
about athletics. You know, kids being on a football team, a baseball team. Like there's so much that's taught in terms of being responsible, being a team player, having accountability, that I think we're at a loss today, right? And not enough kids are engaged in sports. Too many kids are on their phones. As
Yeah.
much as we make technology available, we still, you know, partner up with the PAL at the Armory. Like we're going in to build our film school there, but we're helping to support the Armory, the PL, and its growth, that we maintain
Hmm.
those programs in boxing, in basketball, and baseball. But
That's
for
great.
artists, you know, what I would say, um, to address mental health with art, or and using arts for violence prevention, is that the a person's voice is your greatest tool. Too many kids today really lack confidence
Yeah.
and communication, and communication skills are paramount. And as much as liberal arts and other things were kind of shunned, or when the economy suffers, arts
Yeah.
programs are the first thing to get cut.
To go.
When we see the rapid increase of technology today and generative AI and the sheer capabilities, what it's going to diminish in math and engineer and all these other areas, the way you're going to survive is tapping into your artistic core. So
Yeah.
when we teach film theory and screenwriting and different components of being a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about going in and have a career as in television and film. It's not just about launching your own IP and on different, social media channels.
Yeah.
It's about being a better storyteller in general. Being a good storyteller impacts your relationship,
Right.
all your interpersonal relationships, your relationship with your family,
Yeah.
friends, significant other, pursuing a significant other,
Yeah.
job. If it could be a totally different career, right? Like a person's ability to have charm, wit, charisma, like that's going to get you more success in life than just
Absolutely.
being smart, right?
Yeah.
Like, because being smart only gets you so far. If
Right.
you're smart and you're an asshole, like nobody
Yeah.
wants to work with you. Like,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
or if you're talented and you don't know how to sell yourself, then the other person less talented is
Right.
gonna,
It's gonna get the job.
I worked in corporate America too for a
Yeah.
very brief period, working with Puff, and it's like you're in a company, and it's like the people who came to work dressed nicer or played the game more,
Yeah.
elevated past the people
Sure.
who are actually doing the work and getting
Right. Of course.
stuff done, things
Yeah. There's
done,
that
right? It's
confidence,
like
like you said. Let's get into some fun stuff. So, how did you get to working with Puff?
they
Was
approached
that your
me.
first job after your corporate?
Well, I guess because I never worked for anyone.
Because you were an entrepreneur
I was
first.
an entrepreneur
Okay.
for 10, 15
I
years
love it.
and built my own businesses, and I was so successful in that space. I think a reason Puff and his team reached out was big part of doing Shoot HR in the Bronx.
Okay.
I had this film studio rocking. I mean, I
Wow.
was doing 4 music videos a weekend at Travis Scott doing one of his
Oh,
first
wow.
videos
Dope.
there. The first time Fuse did their hip hop 100 countdown outside of their multi-million dollar 34th Street studio. They came up
Yeah.
to the Bronx, and this was like a part of the Bronx that people considered a scary part of the Bronx, or
Right.
didn't want to take the
And
6
here you
train
have.
and get it off. Like, it was just, I was across the street from the sanitation department. So I
Wow.
really made something out of nothing there,
Right.
but changed the whole neighborhood. The Hip Hop Museum did now. I was on the founding board of the Hip Hop Museum.
Wow, that's
Rocky
dope.
approached me when we had the studio there because he wanted to have Shoot HR be a part of
Yeah.
the museum. And this is before they even got a space where they have now. But
Yeah.
we were just popping. We were doing it, and I got approached a few times to go and run his agency, to be the executive producer, and played more of a creative director role. So I did a bunch of Ciroc campaigns. I did the launch of DeLeon, did the launch of the 3AM fragrance, did all the Sean John campaigns with Macy's.
Oh, yeah.
And I put Migos in one of their first big ads, and that was with Aniche.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a lot of different people I got to empower or employ, or through having, big budgets. So that was a much different experience from me being an entrepreneur and doing startup and indie kind of stuff. And I was able to bring this indie savviness to corporate, which blew their minds, because Diageo would be like, here's $500,000 to shoot this DeLeon spot, and I would bring it in for $50,000, and all the executives would be like, how did he do that? And it's not that I'm underpaying anyone, because I just know how to do it with a smaller crew, and
of course you do.
What locations, and still provide the value.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, Puff is like, oh, this is amazing. And if I would have went $1 million over budget, the company live and dies by what does he like or what he doesn't like, right? So in that system, unfortunately, things weren't set up to always serve the brand. It was more set up to serve a single individual's ego.
Yeah.
And he had a very big ego.
Yeah.
And I don't give him any props, credit, whatever, after seeing a disheartening footage with Cassie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't even want to go into this, because
nobody's
ever asked me about it, and I don't want to be like one of them talking heads on the record going into it. But I mean, there's no place for that in society.
Yeah.
Somebody like that really needs help.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's been dethroned in a way, right? Like, there's no place for him to be honored in our culture, because especially when we all come from the streets.
Exactly.
And we all, have faced that feeling of being powerless
Yeah.
to then abuse your power. And me working with Cassie, I flew her, and you know
Yeah, you did that
the big,
campaign, right?
yeah,
Where
big,
she,
yeah,
yeah,
we did the pineapple
the
launch. She
pineapple
was
launch. Yeah,
the face of the pineapple launch. So
beautiful.
we all flew down to Punta Cana and DR for like a few days, and she's just an amazing,
Yeah, young
genuine
lady.
spirit,
Mm-hmm.
kind hearted. So it's like really hurts to see somebody that beautiful
Yeah,
be abused in such a horrific way,
yeah,
physically, emotionally, verbally, for a number of years, and to be limelight public and all this trauma is going on behind
yeah.
the scenes, right?
I
Like,
don't. All I'll say about it is I don't think money or fame or your ego makes you a monster. I think you're just a monster.
yeah, and if our the highest people in society, our celebrities, aren't protected from it, imagine just the everyday
Yeah,
black woman, how much they're abused, discredited, or
yeah.
not. I mean, when I was young, now I'll get a little personal. I lived in Houston for a number of years,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere between high school, dropping out of high school and getting
Okay.
shot. um, and I had a blast down there, like
I
being a
bet you
drug
did.
dealer, being from New York,
Yeah.
having braids down on my waist,
Mm-hmm.
platinum fronts. Like I was like
So
living the
so
life.
actually, drug dealing was your first job.
Well, I didn't consider that a job, but
It's where you're an entrepreneur.
well, yeah, but a job is like when you're
I
clocking in on
got you.
somebody else's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely entrepreneur.
Okay.
But um, 9 out of the 10 women that I dated, like talk different girls, whether it
Mm-hmm.
was like seriously dating or just hooking up with,
Yeah.
like all shared with me that they had been raped or abused in some way. And I think prior to that, um, I just didn't realize how often in society that women are abused.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, but like that really like blew my mind. And later in life, I did, films to support women uh, dealing with domestic abuse, and
Yeah.
I've done a film about child marriages from the Yemen culture. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think experience, and whether I'm experiencing pain firsthand or secondhand, and I'm discovering other people's pain, it just gives me more uh, compassion, and it just puts more of a fight in me that I hate to see
Yeah.
um, things be unfair, and I hate to see people being taken advantage of.
Well, thank you for being open about that and trusting me with that question. Um, you're also known for one of the most controversial videos for creating, directing, and filming Wyclef John's April Showers. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Absolutely, man. You Joyce, you really do your homework. I'm enjoying it. I came in, I was like, the studio's nice, the atmosphere is very
Very
comfortable.
calm.
You're getting me to talk about things that I wouldn't even just volunteer to talk
I
about.
love it.
Um,
You're home.
yeah, I do. This is great. Yeah, April Showers. Um, so Clef had this song. His brother Sadek
Mm-hmm.
produced it. Shout out to Sadek and Melky and the whole, the vibes.
Mm-hmm.
South by Sid.
There you go.
But so I'm in a studio with him, and I think they like initially were doing it as like some mixtape project,
Okay.
and Clef's like, yeah, let's maybe we'll do like some fashion stuff going down Fifth Avenue with umbrellas, and I'm like, nah, like I mean, like, did you hear the music you
Right.
made?
Right.
Like the song
The
is
song is
so
deep.
powerful.
Yeah.
Um, it's like we really got to do something to address gun violence
Yeah.
with the visual. So he was gracious enough to, follow my lead on the creative and allow me to incorporate the program I had at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Guns for Cameras. So we did this whole visual story about the journey of a young kid in an inner city environment.
Okay.
Troy Ave was on the record.
Yeah.
He had a very,
One of my faves.
yeah, and when he had a very typical ignorant
Yeah.
street verse, glamorizing it. He's such a great person
Yeah.
to people make this music and don't make them bad people. They're just
Right.
going into the business of, you know, whether it's going after the money or whether bragging about your street life.
Right.
It's unfortunate that we can't get these stars to focus on content
Right.
that's really gonna help other people.
Make an impact.
And R.I.P. to Troy's former manager, Hovain. He was a really, really good dude.
Yeah.
He passed away. But working on that project with him was such a pleasure. We did the April Showers.
The video was shut down at one point, wasn't it?
So it got banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Troy, we did April Showers, and then I also put him in a Sean John campaign.
Okay.
So he was on billboards all over Brooklyn. He was hype. But
oh wow.
So in April Showers, there's a very cool dance, big choreographed dance sequence.
Yeah.
Thriller style, but modernized with all these young Brooklyn dancers who are like at the top of the game in the culture. And we did that. They were all like zombified, but doing more modern type stuff. And I mean, there was a lot of components of that video that it could have had a much bigger impact on the culture. But by the time we released it, Clef was pulled to promote a single for the World Cup. He did a song for the World Cup.
Yeah.
So he stopped running that April Showers record, which I'm pretty upset with him, because it's like, we're doing this for the community.
Right.
And then now he's like, suppressing the record. Right. It's like starting to get legs and starting to go crazy. And then like now the World Cup is calling him and they're mad at him. Like,
right.
You're supposed to be promoting this single. Why are we hearing about this song more than?
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And even in the midst of it getting banned. So
Yeah.
Kathy Scott, she had the trademark or whatever on the autopsy photo of Tupac, and we did a recreation of Tupac's autopsy in the video. And it was obviously in color in the live video. It wasn't a photo, black and white photo.
Right.
So TMZ ran it 3 or 4 times. This is, the first time they did a whole big story following this saga of this video being banned and then reinstated. And then she reached out and she was like, "Yo, can you just give me a credit on the video?" And you can. It's like, I really don't need your permission because
we good.
we didn't do no infringement. It was proved. Like you were, but yeah, it's there's it's when you're making art to help people, sometimes you gotta have these fights.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are scared to have these fights because they don't want to offend the wrong person, because then they feel like they can't get fed anymore, right?
Yeah.
Or they can't. People got their hands out, because I would say there's 2 types of people in this world: people who operate out of fear and people who operate out of abundance. And when you operate from a place of fear, you never have enough,
right?
Or you have to push the next person down for you to come up,
right?
And I've always operated from a place of abundance. That if somebody steals an idea or takes an idea, it's like, to me, that's just a drop of water. I have the well, I have the source. I'll create more, and it's overflowing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, and not out of any sense of entitlement or arrogance, but all out of the sense of my purpose, that I know I'm doing something that's going to help other people. And what you're doing is just to help yourself.
Right.
And I will be willing to fight that greed at the risk of my own loss of opportunity or anything else to move the agenda of helping others forward.
Yeah, I like that. I always say there's 2 types of people in this world. There's the gimmes, and then there's the givers. Yeah. And you'll know when you meet someone right off the bat what they are. And if they're a giver, you want to give more. If they're a gimme, you don't want to give them anything, right? Yeah. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing. You're definitely a giver.
Yes.
So I appreciate you being here. So let's close out talking about your film school. I want to talk about that for kids.
Sure. SIC, Social Impact Content.
Love that.
We are the first film school to open a campus in the metaverse. And then we were the first film school to build inside of a major studio development. We're also the first organization in the world to open a hologram studio.
Wow.
Giving access to youth and education. There's a number of these stages. We're the second one on the East Coast, but the only one in the world giving like last year we had a young gentleman, Sharif Tazi, intern with us for the fourth quarter. 19 years old. I'm not going to say what he was doing before that, but he was so proficient at learning the software and calibrating the cameras that we hired him full time January 2nd.
Oh, nice.
And he runs the hologram stage now at 20 years old. And the people who created the software came to do a site visit, and they're like, "Wow, he's so amazing, like so proficient at this."
Great. He just needed that creative outlet.
He can charge $2,000 an hour to go and service our sites around the world. So the fact that we're like giving kids in the hood access to cutting edge technology and having them be like the most proficient in this pipeline of new technology that's rolling out is an extraordinary of itself. Amazing. So we have our physical campus in Yonkers as a college level model. We provide free programs for youth 14 to 19.
Okay.
We're also licensed curriculum, and we do workshops in schools all over New York City. So if you're a superintendent or a principal, hit us up. We are a New York City vendor with the DOE.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, shout out to Melissa Cisco. She's been our biggest champion in that system, and has been bringing a lot of new vendors and entrepreneurs to create curriculum for youth. Because teachers now they don't know what to teach kids that's going to be relevant in 20 years, right? And you see community colleges, like the decline of attendance is like an 80% decline, and CTE schools are in disarray, right? They don't like the branding is off, like the connection, the unions, like there's a lot of gaps. And I shifted to education to make a difference, but I didn't realize how much of an extraordinary need there is in providing better service.
Yeah.
And it's not at the fault of teachers, right? There's a lot of passionate teachers, and there's a lot of great administrators. I just think too many things are not being updated in a way where they're taking advantage of technology, even in government. Yesterday I was in DC at Senator Schumer's office, right? And I have no gripes about going after him, and not because whether he gives us a few million or not, like I didn't need your money, I didn't get your money from the beginning. So if you're not doing the right thing, I'm gonna call you out on this platform or any other platform, right? But it's like, I'm telling his staff, like, you guys can have Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill, and you can hold him before hearing, and then you have all the parents in the room, and you're like, oh, now the parents stand up, and, oh, your blood is our children's blood is on your hands, and it's like you can be like calling out social media or this technology, but where's the solution?
Right.
You want to like put them on the spot and have this moment, but where are you telling them to make the recommendation where there's a solution, right? Like if I come into your studio, I'm like, oh, this is a nice couch, and then by the time I go to leave here and I scroll on my phone, an ad is going to pop up for a couch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I tell you I'm thinking about hurting myself, or I'm not feeling well,
suicide prevention won't come up.
Nothing. I'll scroll. The phone hears us.
Yeah.
We're not using this technology to help ourselves or each other. We'll use it for profit, for advertising, for that. But that could have been a moment where people in Congress or senators could say, hey, Zuck, just give some of that data, give some of that bandwidth to nonprofits.
Right.
So with police, we they have Instagram cops. They're tracking you for gangs and this and that. But like when something pops off, we're not engaging. And the unfortunate thing is, it's like if whoever started this country, right? If Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson or whoever, the thought leaders of American democracy back then, if they were today, they would be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, right? Because anybody with any form of brilliance is going into private industry, is an entrepreneur, is a tech startup, because they're looking for self-gain.
Yeah.
We don't have these people going into public service. Right. And then people who are in public service, it's just another game of attention,
Yeah.
money, lobbying, self-interest. So like, who's really serving humanity?
Right.
Who's bringing innovation to society to actually fix things and not find an
Yeah.
angle to
You are.
exploit? Well, I'm trying to encourage others,
Yeah.
right? Like, so our success at SIC, I, I, um, I hope creates more success, and we teach and share and offer our blueprint, our services, everything we do to other nonprofits,
Mm.
because I want to teach other organizations how to be sustainable, how to get money or make money or generate money
Yeah.
without having to depend on that grant or that senator who's got his head so far up
Yeah.
his ass that he doesn't know which program to fund, and they're only funding things based on what historically has been funded that's not working, and you're spending more money into something over
Right.
30 years and that issue has gotten worse. Like, they're not really getting behind the activists
Yeah.
who are making
Portion
a
of it.
real
Yeah.
difference, like Erica Ford, right,
Yeah.
who we're working with at Life Camp. Like, there's people in these streets, and she gets some funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like someone like her, like, or a lot of people like her, there shouldn't be any need for them, for the lives they're saving, for
Yeah.
funding. Like, that should be the last issue of like them doing the actual work, saving lives, and here
Mm-hmm.
you are with a kid dying in your hands, or a kid got kicked out at 14 years old, but
Yeah.
because the grandmother has dementia, or there's no, social services, like all these different issues, and then you still got to turn around and spend 50% of your time grant writing and this
Yeah.
and like put put the money there. Like, we
Yeah.
wasting on so many other things.
Exactly.
Sorry,
How
I didn't
can
mean to,
students? Oh no, that's okay.
getting off on
I
a
know. I wanted to know.
such a
How
tangent.
can students find your school?
SIC Film
Yeah.
School is the website, sicfilmschool.com. Instagram at SIC Film School. Anybody who wants to engage as a student, educator, a partner, an advertiser, a sponsor, just send an email to apply
Okay.
at sicfilmschool.com.
Okay. And Jesus, where can people find you?
They can find me at SICK. I'm not going to promote my own socials as long as people follow SICK, and the work
Why don't you
grows.
do that? Just curious.
I just feel like
It's not your thing.
it's not my thing, and I don't need followers
Okay.
or likes, or
Yeah.
I don't need friends either,
Yeah.
right? Like, I got my kids, and those are my friends. Like,
Beautiful.
if I have an ounce of time that I'm not spending working, I'm
Yeah.
spending with them who are outside the studio, who I'm going to take to the beach after this.
I
So,
love it. Jesus, thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you for trusting me with this interview. And I really do appreciate your presence here.
oh, my pleasure.